Hi, I'm Dr. Stan Steindl. Welcome to Compassion in a T-shirt. Today I'm joined by Dr. Chia-Ying Chou, a UCSF-trained psychologist and leading specialist in hoarding and cluttering. Chia-Ying combines compassion-focused therapy with years of clinical and research experience to help people move beyond shame, self-criticism and avoidance. In our conversation, we'll explore what hoarding really is, why compassion matters, and how compassionate mind training offers a new path forward. She's running a compassionate mind training course in the coming months. And so I bring you Dr. Chia-Ying Chou. All right. Well, Dr. Chia-Ying Chou, welcome to Compassion in a T-shirt.
Thank you so much for having me, Stan.
It's a delight. You have so much passion, but also expertise around this topic of hoarding. And I wondered if we could actually start there, really. It's just to sort of give us a sense of hoarding. Like many people probably see it, sort of just as collecting too much stuff, maybe, or getting too disorganized with things. But there's perhaps more to it than that. So what is hoarding really about?
Yeah, thank you for giving me this opportunity to talk about this. I can be talking nonstop about this,
Okay.
just to warn you. But yes, a lot of times when we talk about hoarding, we're only talking about what can be seen. Like we're talking about the clutter, we're talking about like piles, we're talking about like people having a lot of stuff, right? But remember, it's a mental health challenge. So it's not about the physicality of it. It's something happens here in the heart and in the mind. Yeah, and so there's indeed a lot to it.
Mm.
And the stuff piling up is kind of like a effect of the internal things. Yeah, and some of the examples of the internal things are deeply feeling not safe. And so that has a lot to do with trauma, be it like the big letter T trauma or small letter T trauma. And some of this internal stuff is how we relate to ourselves. Do we criticize ourselves? What's our relationship with ourselves? Is there shame? And also, do we feel really connected with other people? Yeah, so there's been a lot of different kind of elements about the internal things that are related to hoarding that's been studied. And so my key focus in my approach in working with this population is how do we build a supportive relationship internally so that we can help ourselves feel safe enough to build connection externally so that stuff doesn't become our source of comfort or source of safety or even source of guard to make it feel safer or bigger or better.
Mm.
Yeah, short version. Yeah.
That's brilliant. It really sort of reminds us that the clutter or some of those things, that's more an expression of what's going on inside. And you mentioned a number of things there. Self-criticism and shame, perhaps. I think you might have sort of just mentioned briefly, but a kind of a sense of lack of safeness, really. Just tell us a bit more there. How do those things connect? That inner feeling of lack of safeness and perhaps feelings of shame, and then this outer expression of the hoarding behavior.
Yeah. So this can show that this connection can vary in a number of different ways. And just one easy way to, one of the easier ways that kind of show up, well, not easy, like one of the ways that we can see, we can be more easily comprehend that it shows up is, for example, if we don't feel secure with ourselves, then we want to be prepared. If I don't feel secure in myself, I want to have certain kind of clothes. I want to have certain kind of books. I want to have certain kind of job titles. I even want to have certain kind of kitchen gadgets that makes me feel better about myself. And that better, it doesn't have to be like I will wear this to show other people. It's in the I feel bad about myself, but in purchasing this thing or owning this thing, it kind of makes me temporarily in that moment of acquiring it makes me feel, oh, I am having this different kind of lifestyle portrayed on the advertisement about this, like this set of knife for kitchen, for example. Yeah, so that's one example, but it's not everybody's story. And another example, if I were to think about, is like with people who have a lot of sense of responsibility to the planet, right? So a lot of these folks actually they are very, very concerned about the environment. So they feel very bad to just put things in the garbage bin because knowing it's going to go into the landfill, right? And so for somebody, if they inherit a lot of things or they just go through their own life and then they feel intense self-criticism about not making the best use, not exhaust the less juice of this thing. And if the thing goes to the landfill, that can be really hard for these people. So that reminds me, like when I first started to work with this population, so we're running hoarding treatment groups, we're using CBT at the time, and then I was trying to hear what are the reasons why people would hold on to these things. And believe it or not, all these reasons are reasons that people who don't have hoarding issues would have for them for holding on to things. For example, this thing has sentimental values. It's a card or a gift from a friend. Or for example, this thing, oh, I don't use it now, but I may use it later, or so and so might use it later, or oh, this thing, I might try to recycle it and to sell it because I spend money on it. So all of these things are understandable. And I was just thinking to myself, I have reasons. I have saved different things for these kind of reasons too. And these are reasons that I can relate, and I'm totally big on being environmentally friendly as well. Yeah, so what makes me not have a hoarding issue, right? And then I realized, oh, because at the end of the day, I value myself more than the things. So I don't want and I cannot tolerate having my house becoming a place to serve the things. And so that's why I realize, oh, there is something about where in all these things that we care about, where do I place the me there? Where is the self there? And maybe for people who struggle with hoarding, somehow they feel bad to place themselves in an important role or more important than the well-being of the stuff. Yeah.
Mm. Yes, it sort of feels good to obtain and keep something. It's got that side of the ledger where it's a reassurance or it's projected a sense of self onto the having and possessing this thing. It feels bad to think of discarding those things because of things like the environment or other kind of feelings around discarding them. But between those two kind of bits, the actual sense of self then gets a bit lost in the things rather than having that inner groundedness, that inner sense of self, that inner sense of safeness, as you say. And perhaps as time goes on, the building of the things that we might then sort of have around us and that starts to take over then has a kind of it sort of loops back again to how we then perhaps start to see ourselves in that context as well.
Yeah, very true. Yeah, I so appreciate that you help us highlight. Yeah, indeed. So there's the acquiring aspect of it, and there's the difficulties letting go of what's already been acquired. and then the feedback loop of like, and then getting overwhelmed and even more, feeling even more worse about themselves. Yeah. And then there is also then another aspect of this, which is the stress tolerance and emotion regulation, right? And so if you're surrounded by all these things, and especially if your inner critic is there, why did you get to this place to begin with? You are X, Y, and Z, calling yourself names. Yeah, and most reasonable people would just shut down if that's what's going on in our heads. Yeah, and that's why I realize the compassionate approach is very much needed in this situation.
Yeah. You've talked before about the sort of the dangers almost, I think, of tough love or something, it's that we need the love somehow, and but sort of, it's a lot about how it's delivered. You were traditionally taking CBT approaches, I suppose. So, but what is your compassionate approach? The compassionate mind training. Like, how would you kind of sum that up, and especially too as it relates to hoarding?
Yeah. So, yes, when I was first starting in 2014, when I was first introduced to working with people with hoarding issues, my entry point was using cognitive behavioral therapy to work with this population. And then kind of like like less than a year into running these CBT groups, I realized, hey, there are things that, like, by addressing what we think, it's not enough. There's something here that CBT is not assessing. Yeah, and that's how I found out about compassion focused therapy. And so in our practice in San Francisco Center for Compassion Focused Therapies, we do CFT groups, compassion focused therapy treatment groups. And but that's only offered to people who are in the state that I'm licensed in, which is in California and Ohio. But we also want to bring this compassionate approach to a wider and bigger audience out there so that they can also benefit from this, even though they cannot get therapy in this way. So that's when compassionate mind training workshops comes in very, very handy. Yeah, and
Yes.
as you understand, that the compassion mind training is a very, very kind of um, good format to kind of disseminate CFT, because you don't have to do this, you don't have to always have a therapist to work with you on this. You can do this kind of in a workshop format, and you can then use these tools to work with yourself after the however many weeks of program that is.
Mm. You do a 6 week program, I think. Give us a sense of what would people expect or experience, I suppose, when doing CMT for hoarding.
Yes, yeah. So in the first week or and the second week a little, so we will first learn why we hoard. Yeah. And so a lot of times we thought, oh, I know why I hoard because I have trauma, or oh, because I have hoarding disorder. Yeah. But that's kind of like we only know a reason because of a label. Oh, I'm this, I have this, or because I'm lazy, because I just like whatever, right? We give
Mm.
ourselves a label and say that I know why I hoard. Yeah, but this is why we want to come from a more like a really understand being a human. How is our brain wired? And how our brain is wired related to why we behave in a certain way. And one thing that we will hopefully have the participant take away is kind of like a remembering, hey, I am a human. and even like learning about this fact that they may not know, which is a human is not logical. So a lot of times we feel like we feel frustrated with ourselves. Like, I know better. Why am I doing this? Like, how hard is cleaning up? Why am I not doing it? Right? So we kind of like assume I should just be able to do the logical things. And we forget there's a whole other part of our brain that doesn't speak reason. That is all about emotions. And then so we learn, oh, there's that. So I've been working with this, but I haven't learned with this. I haven't worked with my emotions. Yeah. And so now then in the second week, we will then introduce, okay, how does our emotions work? And what are some of the ways that we can pick up, oh, when I feel a certain way in my body, like I'm holding my breath, I get a knot in my stomach, what does it mean? Oh, I'm in my threat system. I'm trapped there. So every solution I'm trying to think for this problem, if I'm trapped in my threat system, I am not getting anywhere out. I am just like spinning in cycles, beating myself up or frozen. Yeah, and then we introduce other ways to activate the soothing system in the following weeks. We'll do imagery exercises and we will even cultivate a different kind of internal relationship. So we're not here to get rid of our inner critic. So we'll have a chat in one of the sessions to kind of understand where the inner critic is coming from, what does he or she or they want from us, and then we can then negotiate with the inner critic, and we'll come up with somebody else called the compassionate self, and then we'll try to have the compassionate self be a coach rather than be a shamer. Yeah, so
Mm.
that's kind of like the gist of how the 6 weeks trajectory will go.
Yes. It's interesting, isn't it? Even at that start where the person is conceptualizing for themselves what their hoarding kind of behavior is about, they can even do that in a sort of hostile way towards themselves. You know, like I'm lazy or something is sort of, so even there you can sort of feel the way that the critical self plays a role. And but yeah, starting with, as Paul Gilbert says, and I often quote, we have tricky brains, I suppose. And they're these really tricky brains. They can be quite illogical, as you say, and sort of understanding that, and understanding that it's not our fault, and then sort of bringing awareness to the mind through the three circles. You mentioned threat and soothing. Um, does drive come into it in a way with hoarding? What are your thoughts there in terms of, you mentioned threat system, but maybe drive system, or maybe even an interaction between the two? How do you think about that?
I love that question. Yeah. So the drive system is indeed also very key in this context. So sometimes when I'm introducing the drive system, a lot of our participants, they can immediately think about, oh yeah, when I see a sale sign or when I see like partially broken thing on the street, like a furniture, and then all of a sudden my creativity is just running like, oh, I can turn this into something else, or I can make this and give this thing a second life, right? So that's a very typical and very easily accessed example of when the drive system is lit up. Yeah.
Mm,
And
yeah.
so we want to help people identify, oh yeah, creativity is great. There's nothing wrong with that. And then we also want to know, hey, also I want to honor that there is this desire to want to create, or this desire to want to have things. None of this is bad, but we want to keep them in check. We want to have that awareness to know, okay, right now my drive system is all up. This is where I am right now. And then coming back to the balance of the three system, right? Okay, how do we balance the soothing system that wants you to have peace of mind, that wants you to have space and both in your home and your mental space so that you can connect with the other people that you love so your friends can come over. What about that? Yeah, and what about your threat system? When you actually bring this furniture home, are you gonna be so overwhelmed seeing how much more packed this makes your house become? Yeah, so there's that kind of like this more simply drive system situation. And then of course there is the kind of like the threat-based drive, right? So sometimes people say, okay, I have tomorrow off. Tomorrow is the day when I solve my hoarding problem. And then tomorrow comes, they freeze. Yeah, because it's just simply, it's too overwhelming. We don't know where to start. And that drive comes from, not come from a very balanced place. The drive comes from a, like, if I don't solve this problem, I'm a loser. If I don't solve the problem, that something horrible will happen. And so the drive kind of makes us, kind of, it's very short-lived and it's also very easily challenged when things don't go as what we want. Yeah, so
Mm.
those are some examples of the drive system showing up.
Yes, it's interesting, isn't it? The way that uh, collecting things can sort of feel good. One way is that it might help to bring down a little bit threat system activation. It helps to reassure us or helps us. It's a safety seeking kind of a good feeling. But the other
Mm.
way that it can feel good is this drive system idea where we feel sort of inspired or creative or have ideas and kind of it's a sort of solely, or perhaps not solely, but it's sort of dominated by the drive system in that instance. And so there's sort of these different ways actually that the hoarding or the collecting or the obtaining of things can sort of feel good. It's just that there's a threshold somewhere where, like where the behavior is no longer good for us, I suppose, if trying to think of a way to say it. It feels good, but it's not quite good for us. And perhaps that's where the soothing system comes in. How can we ground ourselves and create a sort of a calmness, a safeness, so that we can engage with drive in a way that really is good for us. What are some of the specific skills perhaps there or the practices from CMT that you've found kind of have been really helpful for people struggling with some of this stuff, especially in perhaps that soothing affiliative system aspect?
Yeah, yeah. So as you're kind of like helping us kind of highlight some of these things that were just said, right? I was realizing that the drive is so appealing, for example, at the sight of like something on sale or something that can be turned into a project. It's almost like that's a contrast of the usually really low and really even like depressed state. Yeah, a lot of folks with hoarding issue also experience depression. Yeah, so it's kind of like if the baseline is isolation, is depression, is lack of hope, and then seeing something that kind of like perks them up, that becomes so exciting. Right. And so I was just thinking about, yeah, that with the isolation, the depression, right? So how amazing it would be if the kind of soothing or the kind of comfort can be there more present, more prevalent, more usually, more commonly, rather than at the side of some physical items there. And so one of the kind of foundation that we're trying to help clients to access that soothing system is we want to start being able to turn internal. Because it really feels to me like there isn't a safe home within that people experience hoarding issues can return to. So they constantly need to soothe some uncomfortable feelings by seeking things from the external. Either go and be out and about, helping other people with other people's things, or be preoccupied with work, or go entertaining by with items, right? And so there isn't source of soothing from within. And so, but this is kind of scary in the beginning for a lot of people. So we want to start baby step. So we start by using soothing rhythm breathing. And even for some, this can be challenge, right? So if doing breathing exercise is challenging, then in the workshop we discuss, okay, how about some repetitive movement? Are there ways that we can kind of like gradually bring our attention and awareness to this person, this body here, and a little bit detached from the external? And then when we are able to achieve that, fast forward. So when we're able to achieve that, then we want to see if we can imagine in that place internally, there's a safe place that we can imagine we can return to, or even there's a compassionate being, and we're gonna draw out and gonna use our imagination. If there is this compassionate being who is there supporting you unconditionally, understanding you, but not like in an enabling way, instead in a very guiding and using their wisdom to kind of encourage you, support you kind of way. What would that figure look like? Can be an animal, can be mountain, can be a human. Yeah, so we'll draw it out and then we want to put it in your pocket. And then we want to assess that safeness so that we have a quote unquote home to return to when we get overwhelmed. So that less and less we rely on stuff to ease the pain. We have some other internal resources that we are creating to help us get through isolation, get through depression, get through the night. Yeah.
Mm. Yeah, it's the bringing in the body based sort of practices, the imagery based sort of practices, really trying to yeah, sort of move into that soothing system activation that feels like home in a way, that it has a sort of a safeness and a calmness of home. It's that, I guess, in a way, it's that idea that the soothing system is a safe haven and a secure base, but internally so, that we're able to create those sorts of feelings internally. I remember Charlie Herriot Maitland, who, along with Chris Irons, developed the CMT program. The way he sort of talked about it was we want to go around the three circles in an anti-clockwise direction, where we might be threat system activated, but rather than going straight to drive, we try to go to the soothing system and to home sort of feeling that you're describing, and then from there, feeling more secure, feeling more safe, we're able to go out to threat some. Oh, sorry, go out to drive, or that sort of thing. But you made me suddenly realize, of course, the big thing in CFT and CMT is we are thinking about fears, blocks, and resistances, I guess, to compassion, or especially to self-compassion. Do you notice those arising for people in your groups? Are there particular versions of fears, blocks, and resistances that seem to be more common?
Yeah, yeah, big time. Um, I don't know if I know that I know with evidence because we've done a research on this that we compared people who are diagnosed with hoarding disorder with people who are diagnosed with PTSD, and people with hoarding disorder is significantly experiencing more shame and more self-criticism than
Mm,
people diagnosed with PTSD. And this kind of shame is not just because it's not just shame because I have hoarding disorder. It's shame as a person. Yeah. So this is a very, very sticky thing with this population. And a lot of the self-hatred, self-criticism is almost like it's stuck there. And it's almost like it takes a lot of um a lot of reassurance for some people to let this go. And the reason why it takes a reassurance, a lot of people feel like, well, I don't deserve it. I don't deserve to not hate myself.
Mm,
I, yeah, or even if I become less hatred of myself, I may just turn into this horrible person. Or like if like I don't have any um if I don't have any like inner critic tells me what to do, I will do nothing. Yeah, so there's a lot of different fears about letting that inner critic let go a little bit. Yeah, and
mm,
so
mm,
it does take uh kind of like some time to kind of work through that and talk through the different kind of misunderstanding or mis-expectations about what self-compassion means. Because a lot of times people think, oh, compassion means being nice and being a enabler or just not do anything. I'll be compassionate, be comfortable. Yeah, and so we do need to kind of like in the beginning of like the workshop describing and clarifying some of the misunderstanding about what compassion really means and how
mm,
that actually is you empowering yourself and owning your responsibility, but not in a blaming kind of way. Instead, in a more forward-looking and empowered kind of way. Yeah,
mm,
so that's one aspect about the fears of self to self compassion and even fears about other to self compassion.
mm,
A lot of these folks, they at least in a more kind of like a relational level or like more kind of more daily life kind of level, if you will. It doesn't seem like people have fear about giving compassion to other people. And it's also kind of to a fault. A lot of times, these are very sensitive, very big-hearted people. They forget about themselves when they are seeing other people's needs there. Yeah, but this is also something the three flows of compassion, the giving and receiving and giving yourself compassion. That's also an emphasis of the workshop because, like I mentioned, the isolation is very big and a very key root issues of this problem. So if we are able to kind of like enable those three flows of compassion and have them be more balanced. That way, people can access the support from another human being. As you know, Stan, that's kind of like the most important source of the soothing system is human to human affiliation and feeling safety coming from or safeness coming from this kind of like deeper connection. And deeper connection doesn't just look like, oh, when you have problem, I forget about myself and I am all in helping you. And but when I have problem, I'm gonna close my door and don't let you even know. That's not the kind of connection that would actually address this isolation a lot of people are feeling.
it's such a sort of it's a tragic kind of paradox in there, isn't there, with all of that? You know, it in a couple of ways. One way that I was thinking was that just the way that self-criticism is such a source of the barriers to self-compassion. You know, all of those fears of self-compassion, people sort of double down with the self-criticism side. And yet you mentioned that, you know, in some ways that's a misinterpretation of what self-compassion is, and so a bit of time is spent there to really help to sort of explore that and kind of clarify what we're really meaning by self-compassion. But the other thing is it's like there's misinterpretations of what self-criticism does as well. There's this assumption that self-criticism is somehow a really good idea or going to be helpful or motivating or keep me on track and so on. And that's often not the case either, because self-criticism is such so correlated with or even sort of a causal factor in their depression as well. And so, there's sort of paradoxes there, but then there's this other broader paradox of in and around the flows, such compassionate people towards others, and yet very closed to receiving compassion from others or from themselves. And yeah, that's it, it's really it's those dynamics, I guess, that we're really trying to work through. One of the things that occurs to me is just the courage, that it takes there to sort of kind of move towards those things that are hopefully going to be helpful and yet very difficult to approach. But on the other hand, these people have so much strength and courage in the kind of world that they're currently living in too. I mean, imagine the willpower there, and the sort of the strength that has to be brought to maintaining some of those difficult aspects of their life too. What are your thoughts there about strength and courage and some of those qualities of compassion, and where they might come into play with the work that you're doing with this group?
Yeah, that's a very good point. I really appreciate that you're seeing the strengths in people with hoarding issues. Oftentimes they don't see that. They see, yeah, I have this problem. What do you mean I have strengths? I don't. Yeah, but that's not true. A lot of them they're very, very they have big contributions to the community around them, their family, their friends, and they have big hearts. Yeah, and the I think, to respond to your question, somehow I keep coming back to this self to self relationship and this shame that's blocking the turning around of that wisdom, that compassion inward, that strength inward. Because when it comes to, hey, there is some great cause that will make less things go into the landfill, they're all in. They have such commitment, willpower, and they are very resourceful, very knowledgeable. They're all in. But when it comes to, hey, let's make a little bit space in your home. This reminds me, sometimes I have clients that they would feel like they are responsible to use certain things to the last possible way of this thing can be used.
Hmm.
And even like wear a piece of clothing until there are holes that are not repairable before it's okay to let it go. And sometimes when I ask them, is it okay if we make it easier for you? Can we have things go a little easier? And even, let me use a dirty word, make it more convenient for you. They'd be like, huh, is it really okay? I feel really guilty. And it kind of, it's very telling, like how they just innately feel like it's not okay for things to be easier for me. It's not okay that I don't just serve these things. And so sometimes I also talk about this concept of like, are your things serving you? Or are you serving your things? And somehow a lot of people feel, what? I never thought about this. Yeah, as if like it's a default, of course, like I need to maintain my things. I need to make the space, the home of my things. They never thought about why are these things here in the first place? They're supposed to be here to serve you. And somehow that's not okay. Yeah,
Mm.
and it's not here that they believe it's not okay. Here they know it's supposed to be okay, but it's in the feeling. And so that's why it feels like there's something that's about the shame, about the self to self relationship that needs to be softened for all these other balance to be kind of rebuilt.
Mm. And I like how you introduced the notion there of kind of guilt as well, and the difference really between shame and guilt, I suppose. The shame of I am bad, but the guilt of doing something bad, and there's a it's an interesting shift because of course guilt comes more from a caring motivation in a way, and there's a sort of almost a link there between those guilty feelings around convenience is a dirty word. I liked how you said that as well. But that there's sort of guilty feelings there, but that actually connects us to the caring motivation or even the compassionate motivation. We feel a bit guilty because we are so caring and compassionate in the world, and so then the next step is kind of like sort of resolving that in the direction of maybe forgiveness or compassion or those sorts of things.
Mhm. Yeah, very true. And how we balance the care to the planet and the care to ourselves.
Ourselves, yes, and that self to self relating is so key. Well, would you mind just sort of telling us a bit about the workshop itself and how to find out more, I suppose, for people who are interested? Where can they find more about what you're offering there?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, so we offer this compassion mind training workshop for hoarding and cluttering once a year. And this year it's coming up in October. And so if you are in the US, in Europe, it will be October 13th. But if you are in Asia or in Australia, that would be October 14th because of the time difference. And so it's 6 weeks and it's online. And so each week is 2.5 hours long. I'll share the registration link to Stan, and then maybe we can put it in the description below. And then you will also find the specific time and yeah, and how to register and all that.
Perfect. Yes, I'll definitely put links to all of that in the description. So thank you. Well, I mean, just the heartfelt way that you talk about this topic and working with people that it is very you take a beautiful approach to it, and the warmth and care that you approach the work you do is really an inspiration. But also thank you for speaking with me on compassion in a t-shirt.
Thank you so much, Stan. And thank you so much for making these resources available for the broader audience. And this, I really love this channel, this series that you have. Yeah, it really makes compassion focused therapy and the goodies in it more accessible in daily life.
Yes, the goodies of compassion focused therapy. That's a good one. Great. Thank you very much.